I, 32M, never thought I'd be posting something like this, but here goes. This happened about 3 months ago, and I'm finally at a point where I can talk about it without feeling like my world is collapsing. My ex-fiancée, 29F, and I had been together for 4 years, living together for 2. Everything seemed perfect. We rarely fought, had similar goals, and genuinely enjoyed each other's company. Last December, I proposed during our vacation in Switzerland. It was magical, with snow falling around us as she said yes. We were both ecstatic and immediately started planning our future together. About 2 months ago, as we were discussing wedding plans, Natalie, not her real name, casually mentioned that we needed to get a prenuptial agreement sorted before the wedding. I wasn't opposed to the idea. I've always believed in being practical about these things. My parents had divorced messily when I was a teenager, so I understood the value of clear agreements. Sure, I said. We can talk to a lawyer and figure out what makes sense for both of us. That's when things started to get weird. Natalie didn't want to just talk to a lawyer. She already had a draft agreement prepared. She handed me a thick folder containing what looked like a professionally drafted contract. I was surprised but tried not to read too much into it. Maybe she was just being thorough. That night, I went through the document, and my blood ran cold. The prenup wasn't a mutual protection agreement. It was completely one-sided. According to the terms, if we divorced, all assets acquired during the marriage would be divided 70/30ths in her favor. My retirement accounts would be considered joint property, but hers would remain separate. I would have to pay her alimony for 10 years, regardless of the length of our marriage. The house we were planning to buy together would automatically go to her. I would be responsible for all debts acquired during the marriage. There were at least a dozen more clauses, each more absurd than the last. One particularly bizarre stipulation stated that if she decided to leave the marriage, I would have to vacate our home within 48 hours, regardless of whose name was on the lease or mortgage. The next morning, I calmly asked her about the contract. Don't you think this is a bit one-sided? She looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. This is non-negotiable. My father's lawyer drafted it specifically to protect me. But what about protecting both of us? I asked. A prenup should be fair to everyone involved. She laughed. Not her usual warm laugh, but something colder. Fair? Marriage isn't about being fair. It's about security. My parents went through 3 divorces between them. I need to know I'm protected if things go south. But what about my protection? I pressed. You'll be fine, she said dismissively. Men always are. That conversation haunted me for days. I kept trying to convince myself that I was overreacting, that Natalie had just been overly cautious. But something had changed between us. I noticed her watching me carefully whenever I mentioned the prenup, as if gauging how much resistance I might put up. A week later, I suggested we meet with a neutral attorney to draft something more balanced. Her response was immediate and fierce. I'm not changing anything in that document, she said flatly. This is about my financial security. If you really loved me, you'd sign it without making such a big deal. The emotional manipulation was so obvious it almost made me laugh. Almost. Instead, I felt a chill run through me. Was this the woman I had fallen in love with? The one I thought I knew better than anyone else? Natalie, this isn't about love. It's about respect and fairness. This contract essentially says you can walk away at any time with most of our assets, while I'd be left with next to nothing. She crossed her arms. That's not how I see it. Let me ask you something, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. What happens if you decide you don't want to be married anymore? According to this, you could literally walk away tomorrow. What she said next is burned into my memory. She looked me straight in the eyes and said, that's the point. I need to know I can leave whenever I want, with minimal consequences. I sat there stunned. It wasn't just about protecting assets. She was literally planning an escape route before we'd even walked down the aisle. So our marriage would essentially be a temporary arrangement for you? Something you can discard when it becomes inconvenient. I asked. Don't be dramatic, she scoffed. I'm just being practical. Marriage is ultimately a business arrangement. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. For me, marriage was a lifelong commitment, for better or worse. Sure, people change and things happen, but you at least enter it with the intention of forever. The idea that she was already planning her exit strategy made me question everything about our relationship. Over the next few days, I started noticing other red flags I'd been blind to. How she'd subtly isolated me from friends who were bad influences. How she'd dismiss my concerns about anything by telling me I was being too sensitive. How major decisions always seemed to go her way, while my input was treated as an afterthought. I consulted a lawyer friend who reviewed the prenup. His assessment was blunt. This is predatory. Don't sign this unless you're prepared to lose everything. Then, I did something I should have done much earlier. I called her parents, with whom I'd always had a good relationship. Her mother answered. and I casually mentioned the prenup situation, expecting some insight or mediation. "Oh, that," her mother said dismissively. "Natalie's always been smart about protecting herself. When she left her last boyfriend, she managed to keep the condo they'd bought together, even though he'd paid most of the down payment. She knows how to look out for number one." I felt physically ill. This wasn't just caution, it was a pattern. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every moment of our relationship replayed in my mind, now viewed through a different lens. Was I just another stepping stone for her? Had anything between us been real? The next morning, I asked Natalie to meet me at a coffee shop near our apartment. I wanted neutral territory for what I knew would be a difficult conversation. She arrived looking annoyed, checking her watch repeatedly as if I was wasting her precious time. "I've been thinking about the prenup," I began carefully. Her face immediately brightened. "You'll sign it?" "No," I said firmly. "I won't. And I think we need to talk about what that means for us." Her expression hardened instantly. "There's nothing to discuss. That contract is non-negotiable." "Then we have a problem," I replied. "Because I can't marry someone who's already planning their exit strategy, who sees me as a resource rather than a partner." "You're being ridiculous," she snapped. "This is standard protection." I pulled out a copy of the contract I'd marked up with my lawyer. "This is not standard. This is predatory. And what your mother told me about your last relationship, keeping the condo even though your ex paid most of it, that concerns me deeply." She froze. For the first time, I saw a panic flash across her face. Then it was replaced by cold fury. "You went behind my back? To my parents?" she hissed. I was trying to understand, to find some middle ground. But there isn't any, is there? This has never been about mutual protection. It's about what you can extract from this relationship. She stared at me for a long moment. Then, remarkably, her expression softened. She reached across the table for my hand. "Baby, I think you're misunderstanding. I love you. I just need security. We can adjust some things if it really bothers you that much." It was the "that much" that did it. As if my concerns were trivial. As if I was the unreasonable one. In that moment, I knew with absolute certainty what I needed to do. "Natalie, I'm done," I said quietly. "The wedding is off. Our relationship is over." Her face contorted with shock, then anger. "You can't be serious. Over a stupid document." "It's not about the document. It's about what it represents. You don't want a partnership. You want a safety net with an escape hatch. That's not marriage." "You'll regret this," she said, her voice deadly calm. "Nobody walks away from me." "I'm not walking away," I replied, standing up. "I'm running. Goodbye, Natalie." I placed my key to our apartment on the table and left. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clearer than it had been in weeks. The aftermath wasn't pretty. She told all our mutual friends I'd broken her heart because I was afraid of commitment. Her father called, threatening legal action for breach of promise. Apparently, that's not even a thing anymore. I even lost my deposit on our wedding venue. But 3 months later, I have no regrets. Last week, I heard she's already engaged to someone else, some wealthy guy she met at her gym. Part of me wants to warn him, but I know he wouldn't listen. I certainly wouldn't have, 3 months ago. Some friends say I overreacted, that prenups are normal these days. Maybe so. But a contract that's designed to benefit only one person isn't a prenup, it's a trap. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to say goodbye. I appreciate you watching till the end. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more content.